My mother didn't even pause mid-slice when she said it. Her voice was calm, as if she were commenting on the weather rather than handing down a death sentence for my place in this family. Your sister's family will always be the priority, and you're always last. My father sat beside her, nodding slightly. A brutal confirmation. No one looked at me. No one felt the need to apologize. In that dining room, heavy with the scent of expensive candles and fake perfection, I realized I wasn't a daughter. I was a backup plan. A faded footnote in the brilliant chronicles of my sister Laya. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. The old pain usually burned hot and tightened my chest, but this time, it was freezing. A bone-deep cold that brought with it absolute clarity. I simply set my glass down, looked them dead in the eye, and said 3 words. Fine. Understood. They thought it was submission. They thought I was accepting that last place spot as a natural fact. They were wrong. That was the moment I stopped waiting for a seat at their table. That was the moment I withdrew my love, my money, and my future from them. A separate life. A separate future. And just when the silence between us had become clean and final, the storm hit. 6 months later, they were standing at my front door, the whole family, faces panic-stricken, clutching bright red past-due notices. They thought I'd open the door just like I always did, but they forgot one thing. They taught me how to be last. And today, I was going to show them just how much power the last one actually holds. Before I tell you what happened behind that door, tell me where you're listening from. I need to know I'm not the only one who was ever made to feel invisible by their own family. I grew up in a house where the walls held a silent ranking system. You could hear it in how the footsteps changed depending on who walked in, or how conversations became animated when she appeared and tapered off when I entered. No one said it out loud back then. They didn't have to. The hierarchy existed in the smallest details. The breaking point was when Laya turned 16. That night, the entire driveway was lit up. My parents had parked a brand new car right under the street lamp, the paint catching every sparkle of light. They stood next to it, cameras in hand, waiting for her to walk out. I watched it all from a dark upstairs window. I heard my mother's voice clearly, sharp with pride. Your future is worth the investment, Laya. 6 months later, on my 16th birthday, no bright streetlights, just the humming fluorescent light of the kitchen shining down on a small cake. No candles, no surprise waiting outside. Just my father sliding a simple card across the cold stone counter. We're proud of you, the pre-printed text read. I still smiled. I had memorized the script by then. Laya got the spotlight. I got the polite nod. The independence they labeled me with wasn't a gift. It was neglect in disguise. College followed the exact same pattern. Laya got checks for tuition, for textbooks, and for a nice apartment near campus. And me? I got a lecture on responsibility and the joy of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. You're so independent, my mother said, as if it were a flaw I had chosen for myself. You manage just fine on your own. And so I managed. I stocked shelves at the supermarket in the dark hours before dawn, wrote code for cheap freelance projects at night, and saved every penny for community college. I remember my last shift at the grocery store before the fall semester vividly. In the employee break room, someone had taped a family vacation photo to the fridge. A beach, bright umbrellas, arms draped over shoulders, laughing. It hit me like a slap in the face. Laya had albums full of moments like that. Me? I didn't have a single family photo after the age of 13 where I wasn't standing awkwardly at the edge of the frame, like an extra on a movie set. My graduation from community college came and went in silence. My parents had left town that weekend for Laya's baby shower. I walked across the stage alone, my name echoing in a hall full of strangers. After the ceremony, I called home. My mother answered amidst the noise of running errands. "That's wonderful, honey," she said hurriedly. "But Laya is having early contractions, and I'm helping her pack her hospital bag. I'll call you back." She never called back. When I transferred to a 4-year university on a partial scholarship, they called it a cute little achievement. But Laya's wedding? That was the event of the decade. They walked around the reception hall with a pride that suggested they had built it with their own hands. I stood near the bar, listening to distant relatives gush about how lucky I was to have a sister with such a perfect life. As if her glow somehow shined on me, too. It didn't. Not even a little. By then, I had learned to stop expecting anyone to make room for me. I carved out my own space, small at first, starting with a few investments, a strict budget, and a quiet apartment with dim morning light. My name wasn't on the family photo wall. But finally, it was on my own lease. A separate life, built from the silence they left behind. The text came late on a Wednesday night. A short line from my mother. "Family meeting Sunday. Important." No context. No asking if I was free. It felt like a mandatory summons, not an invitation. When I walked into the living room that weekend, the air was thick with quiet panic. Papers were scattered across the coffee table, past due notices, bank statements with lines highlighted in aggressive yellow marker. Laya sat there, stiff, hands clenched together. Her husband, Noah, avoided everyone's eyes. My parents had pulled 2 armchairs to the front, sitting opposite me, as if they were staging a tense negotiation. My mother didn't waste time. "There's a situation," she said. "Your sister's family is in financial trouble." Trouble was a laughable understatement. The mortgage was months behind. The kids' tuition was unpaid. A messy legal issue that my mother glossed over quickly had left Noah unable to work at the moment. Every number on the table pointed in the same direction: collapse. My father sighed, drumming his fingers on the stack of bills. "We've done the math. We can cover a portion, but we can't carry it all. Laya needs immediate help." I waited in silence. I wanted to see how long it would take them to get to the point. It didn't take long at all. My mother leaned forward, her tone becoming so matter-of-fact it was cruel. "We expect you to handle the rest. You're single. You have a stable job, and you don't have the heavy expenses your sister has. It's only logical, isn't it?" And there it was. The naked truth exposed once again. Laya first. Me. Later. Always. No one asked if I could afford it. No one asked if I was carrying burdens of my own. No one asked me anything. They simply assumed. The independence they once pinned on me as a compliment had now twisted into an excuse for exploitation. In their eyes, I wasn't a child to be loved, but an untapped natural resource. My father slid a pre-printed list toward me. "These are the immediate payables," he said. "Mortgage arrears, private school tuition, legal retainers, estimated monthly expenses highlighted in bright yellow. Expected. Assigned. Yours," Laya whispered, her voice trembling but full of entitlement. "We really need you, Karenza." As if their need was a currency I was obligated to accept. The room blurred softly at the edges, the ticking clock, the faint hum of the refrigerator. The weight of years of neglect pressed on the same old bruise in my heart. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just looked at the numbers, then looked at them, and let the silence sink in deep. They expected me to open my wallet. They expected the familiar compliance of the daughter on the sidelines. But I said only one sentence, my voice dry. "I need 24 hours. The drive home was eerily quiet. No music, no radio. Just the sound of my old engine and the echo of my mother's words, crisp and sharp. "You are always last." It had been said casually, tossed across the dinner table like a used napkin. But it lived deep in the walls of that house, in every choice they had made for 30 years. The truth had finally spoken itself out loud. And now, they wanted me to forget it because they needed money. I locked my apartment door behind me. Clean, sparse, a place built with my own hands, my own money, and my own choices. For years, I had carried their expectations, silently complying without resistance because I thought resistance was futile. But the silence now felt different. It was electric. It was clear. I opened my laptop. Checking. Savings. Portfolio. The numbers didn't surprise me. I knew them by heart, the way people remember birthdays. I had lived like someone always preparing for the world to leave them behind. And that discipline had built a foundation no one in my family knew existed. My fingers moved steadily. I separated everything. New folder, new label, personal, private, secure. Then I dragged every statement, month by month, year by year, my entire financial archive, into a new folder on the desktop. I named it Independent. Across the room, Ava set down the takeout bag. She didn't say anything, didn't ask. She just watched me the way she always did, quietly, without judgment. When she walked over and placed a hand on the back of my chair, that warmth was the only thing anchoring me to reality. "You aren't choosing against them," Ava said softly. "You are choosing for yourself." I didn't answer, but those words straightened my spine. I opened a new spreadsheet. Columns, formulas, projections. I mapped out exactly what they had asked of me. Mortgage arrears, tuition, legal fees, estimated living costs. Numbers don't lie. And these numbers weren't a request. They were a restructuring of my life to salvage someone else's. The cursor blinked. I added one more column titled Terms. If I helped, and I wasn't sure I would, it wouldn't be the way they expected. No charity, no sacrifice, no returning to the old cycle where pain was the price of admission. I drafted the framework slowly, meticulously, like an architect. An interest-bearing loan, a 5-year repayment plan, mandatory financial counseling, mandatory family therapy, and most importantly, a written acknowledgement of the bias I had lived with for nearly 3 decades. Every condition was clean, neutral, administrative. Nothing was revenge. It was all fairness. I printed the draft and set it aside. Then I moved to the next layer of the plan: boundaries. I went through my banking apps and canceled every automatic payment related to family costs, the old holiday contributions, the split gifts for Laya's kids, the streaming subscription my parents never paid me back for. Delete. 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 Every confirmation screen felt like a stone being lifted off my chest. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. Ava sat on the sofa, legs crossed, watching me without interrupting. There was no pity in her eyes, only recognition. "You've been holding your breath your whole life," she said quietly. "Tonight is the first time I've seen you exhale." I closed the folder. I wasn't angry anymore. I just wanted truth, structure, and a life that finally belonged to me. They were waiting when I arrived. Same living room, same armchairs pulled to the front. But this time, there was a difference. I didn't bring guilt. I brought a file folder. Ava walked beside me, silent and steady. My mother clasped her hands, eyes lighting up with hope. "Good. You're here. We can get this settled right now." Laya offered a shaky smile. "We really appreciate this, Corenza." They were thanking me for a decision I hadn't even made yet. I sat down, placed the folder on the table, and opened the cover. Bank statements, investment summaries, retirement allocations, all aligned perfectly. The atmosphere in the room shifted. My mother was the first to lean in, eyes narrowing in confusion. What? What is all this? I slid a page toward her. Context. My father picked up another sheet, eyes scanning the numbers rapidly. The rustle of paper was the only sound in the room. He froze mid-page, not just because of the account balance, but because of the sudden, sharp realization they knew nothing about my life. My mother's voice became thin. Why did you never tell us you had this? You never asked, I replied. The silence fell, clean and absolute. I pulled out the next document, the loan terms. Noah frowned. Is this a contract? I nodded. If you want financial support, it won't be blind sacrifice. It will be structure. My mother recoiled. Structure for family? Structure for adults, I corrected, to prevent this from happening again. My father scanned the page. Repayment in 5 years. Market interest rate. Mandatory financial counseling. His voice cracked on the last words. That's standard, I said. If I help, you have to learn how to never need me again. Leia looked at me, eyes wide and hurt. You're making us sign a promissory note? We're family. You made me responsible for your decisions, I said calmly. This paper prevents that from happening again. Noah started to get angry, but I cut him off. This is fair. Very fair. I continued. There is more. I turned to my parents. You two will attend family therapy. Not to assign blame, but to understand the system of bias we've lived in for 30 years. My mother stiffened. This family doesn't have problems. You said I was always last. I reminded her gently. That is the problem speaking. She turned her face away. I delivered the final blow. There will be a public acknowledgement. At the next family gathering, you will speak clearly about the bias, the imbalance, and the history of expectations placed only on my shoulders. My father shook his head. That is humiliating. That is honest, I replied. Humiliation only happens when the truth is too heavy to carry. The room seemed to shrink, pressing in on them. Finally, I pushed the last document toward them. This is what you asked me to pay. Mortgage, tuition, legal fees. This is the price of your choices. The terms lay there, naked, neutral. My mother whispered, You really won't help unless we agree to this? I looked her straight in the eye. I said, Fine, understood at Thanksgiving. And I meant it. Once I understood my position in this family, I stopped standing in the spot you assigned to me. If I am always the last one here, then I have to be the first one in my own life. No one spoke. I took out a pen and placed it on top of the contract. You have 24 hours, I said. Exactly the time you gave me. I stood up and grabbed my bag. Ava rose beside me. And if you say no, then you will have to handle your own emergencies, just like I had to learn to handle my own life. 6 months passed before I stepped back into that house, not for a crisis, but for a scheduled family therapy session, the final one. Change didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. Leia and Noah signed the terms. Every loan installment arrived on the due date each month, transferred cleanly, no excuses. Financial counseling had reshaped how they lived. They no longer spoke as if their needs were gravity. My parents changed too, though slowly, like melting ice. In therapy, Dr. Miriam guided them toward words they had avoided their whole lives: pattern, imbalance, imposed expectations. My mother cried for the first time when she said, "We didn't see you." And me? I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting anymore either. My life had opened up. I moved to a brighter apartment where the mornings felt like beginnings. My desk held only the essentials: a computer, a mug, and a small plant Ava had bought me. Ava never asked me to shrink myself. I never expected her to rescue me. We met in the middle, without ghosts from the past tugging at the edges. Before leaving the final session, Dr. Miriam said softly, This is a family learning to walk differently, and you are the one who shifted the ground beneath their feet. Driving home, the evening lights stretched out along the road. My apartment was waiting. Quiet, warm, and mine. For the first time in my life, nothing was borrowed. I placed my keys on the table. The sound of metal hitting wood was satisfying. Unlike the sparkly car keys my sister once held in the driveway all those years ago, these keys were quiet. They were earned. They were chosen. The window was open just enough to let the night breeze in, steady and cool. Ava was in the kitchen, humming a soft tune, a sound that demanded nothing of me. Family doesn't always change because they want to. Sometimes they change because someone stopped carrying the weight for them. I believed them when they said I was last, and that was exactly when I stopped standing in their line. Peace isn't given, it's earned.